Get it memorized. This is your 14th time taking it. I'll call this meeting of the Huron School Board to order and ask that everybody rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The first item on the agenda is swearing in Mr. John Halbcat as an appointed board member to fill the vacancy of Sherman Gose. Mr. Christopherson, I'll defer to you on that procedure.
We just typically have the new candidates read their oath of office and go from there.
I, John Helbcat of Huron School District Number 2-2, having been appointed as school board member of Huron School District in Beadle County, South Dakota, do solemnly swear that I will support the laws and Constitution of the United States and the state of South Dakota, and to faithfully perform the duties of school board membership and file a bond if required by law, and having it approved.
Thank you very much. I believe that constitutes the swearing in. Welcome back to the board. It's great to have you. Then I'll ask the business manager to note the roll call now, and we'll move on to the adoption of the agenda. I'll first note that the executive session, number 13 at the end, will be removed. There's no longer need for an executive session, as the contract negotiation procedure, for the most part, has concluded. Is there any other?
I'd move to adopt the agenda as amended.
Second. Oh, okay. Can we finish the adoption of the agenda first? Okay. Okay, there's a motion?
Yes.
And a second to adopt the agenda. All in favor of that to say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carries. Okay, Mr. Christopherson has asked that the minutes reflect that Mr. Halbcat, when taking his oath of office, was taking it both to fulfill the last 3 meetings of this term, that concludes at the end of June, and also for the next term that Sherman would have started beginning July 1. And then
1 year.
for 1 year, that will last until, through the next election in April. And at that point, an election will be held to fulfill the last 2 years of that term. So, that's sufficient?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. The dates to remember are printed on the agenda. We have the Athletic Awards Program on May 24th at 7 p.m. at the high school auditorium. On May 25th, we have Baccalaureate at 8 p.m. at the Huron Arena. May 26th is 8th grade promotion at 7 p.m. at the high school auditorium. May 27th is the last day of classes. That is an early release day. May 29th is graduation at 2 p.m. in the Huron Arena. May 30th is Memorial Day holiday. May 31st is teacher checkout. June 13th, we have a school board meeting at the Instructional Planning Center in the arena at 5:30 p.m. We also have on that day a school board administrators work session for goals reporting at 6:30. We have the ESL Summer School Program running from June 6th through June 30th. That's Monday through Thursday, each day from 8 to 1. We have a number of different nutrition programs running through the summer. From June 6th through June 30th, we have the summer nutrition program breakfast at the Huron Middle School from 7:40 to 8:10. And that runs Monday through Thursday. There's no breakfast on Fridays. The summer lunch program runs from 10:45 to 12:45 every day, Monday through Friday. From July 1 through August 5th, there's no breakfast, and the summer lunch program Hours are 11:45 to 12:45, Monday through Friday. We also have during the month of June, June 6th through June 30th at the Washington 4-5 Center, a summer breakfast program from 7:35 to 8:05. That's also Monday through Thursday. And then a summer lunch program from 10:45 to 12:45, also Monday through Thursday. Again, that's at the Washington 4-5 Center. And then on June 27th is another regular school board meeting at 5:30 PM with a goal-setting session to follow. That is the dates to remember. We now turn to community input for items not on the agenda. Is there anybody present for community input? Seeing no one approaching, we'll move forward to the consent agenda. The superintendent of schools recommends approval of the following. There are no new hires or contracts on the agenda. We have 2 resignations, one for Whitney Easton as a high school aide and study hall monitor, and for Eric Hall, a study hall supervisor, and 9th grade boys basketball coach and assistant varsity football coach. There are 6 bills for approval. I will not read them all here. You can refer to the agenda for the list of bills. There's a request to increase meal prices from the nutrition office. They're requesting to increase the school breakfast and lunch prices 10 cents per meal for the upcoming 2016-2017 school year. There's a request to approve the bid for gas for the 2016-2017 school year, and a request to approve bid for diesel fuel for the 2016-2017 school year. There's also a request for open enrollment approval for requests OE 2015-27, -28, and -29. And finally, there's an intent to apply for grant funding that was submitted by the Preschool Partnership Program for Destination Imagination, ICU at the middle school, and for month's math night. Those are all applying for United Way grants. That is it for the consent agenda. If anybody has any questions or wishes to remove an item and put it on the business agenda, we can do so. Are there any questions?
Move approval of consent agenda.
There's a motion and
Second.
a second to approve the consent agenda as read. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. That motion carries. We now move to celebrate successes in the district, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Nebelsick.
Okay, thank you. Congratulations go out to the employees of the year that were announced at the banquet on Wednesday, May 11th. Classified Employee of the Year, Ron Kerr and Kevin Isaacson. The Support Staff Employee of the Year was Dawn Coughlin from Library Services. Elementary Teacher of the Year was Becky Moding. Middle School Teacher of the Year, Brooke King. And High School Teacher of the Year, Becca Briggs. Congratulations to all of them. Congratulations to Anna Pyle, who won first place in the American Legion Auxiliary Essay Contest for her essay, How Do We Keep Lincoln's Promise to Our Veterans and Their Families? Also want to congratulate the Building Trades Group as they near the completion of their open house, and invite all who are listening to an open house which will take place at the home they've just constructed. It's behind the CTE Vocational Center and between the high school and middle school, and it will be open this Thursday, an open house tour from 5:30 until 7 p.m. All community members are welcome to attend that. Congratulations to the Madison Elementary 2-3 Center on achieving the 2016 Bronze National Healthy Schools Award from the Alliance for a Healthier Generation. And congratulations to Trent Frankham, who set a new school record of 15 feet in the pole vault at the Wendell Gas Relays, breaking his brother Reagan's record by 4 inches. Congratulations, Trent. Thank you to the following people who make the Employee Recognition Banquet possible. Committee members Kelly Christopherson, Demi Moon, Mike Taplett, Carol Tompkins, Heather Rozelle. Those who worked the program and all of those things are Vicki Davis, Mary Hirschman, Cleela Henson, Diana Nebelsick, Barb Peterson. Thanks to the video for Nick Shields, and those who served on the Employee of the Year Committee. So it was a wonderful, wonderful evening, and it's only going to get better. Mr. Chairman?
Thank you. We now turn to reports to the board. Our first is a presentation by the Huron Middle School Math Department. I believe Mr. Taplett is leading this organization.
I believe it's on. Okay. First off, I want to thank you for having us. We're going to share a little bit the four-year journey that our math department's been on. It's been a, what do I want to say, interesting journey, collaborative journey by our math department. And they're going to share a little bit tonight of some of the work they've done incorporating the standards-based learning and reporting into their traditional reporting practices. And two teachers here with us this evening are Brooke King, who is a sixth grade special ed, but also teaches some math with those students, and an ESL math instructor who had been in the seventh grade the year before, Lisa Kistner. These two will be sharing with you the journey that they've taken with the other people at the middle school on the math department. And what you're going to hear, I think, is where you're seeing student proficiency focusing on the standards-based outcomes, basically, and the work that they've done with that. Either these two or some of these people from the middle school will also be presenting at the joint conference in Sioux Falls in August. And you won't hear any of that presentation per se this evening, but you'll get bits and pieces of that. Before they start, and before I turn it over to them, I can't thank the entire math department at the middle school for their time, work, effort, as well as Laura Williamson and Sherry Nelson, who are in the audience, the work that they did with this group of teachers to get to where we're at. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to the two math teachers.
Okay, our journey 4 years ago began when we posed this question to our middle school staff, asking what the primary purpose of grades was. And so after much discussion, these were some of the ideas that were given as to why we do grades. We got rid of a few of them, and we ended up agreeing that to communicate was the primary goal. And what we want to communicate is student achievement. And so we want our grades to reflect exactly what students know, what they understand, and what they can do in relation to those standards. So 4 years ago when we began this, this is just a skeleton outline of everything that we have done. It goes into much more detail, but these are the highlights. 2002, we began our ICU program. We sent an ICU leadership team of 16 teachers, and they went to Mitchell to observe and shadow their ICU team and talk with their administrative staff on ICU. Through 2013, we began a book study with Ken O'Connor and on grading practices, and so we started looking at how we were grading in our classrooms. We also sent a group of teachers to the AMLE conference where they attended sessions on standards-based grading. 2014, I was part of the group that went to the Sioux Falls observations. We attended 2 middle schools there and looked at how they were using standards-based learning. We also hosted the Huron Assessment and Grading Conference, where we had national and area presenters talking about grading practices. This is also when our math standards-based learning team was established. From there, in 2015, we added the English Language Arts team and the Science standards-based team as well, and they started to prioritize their standards. 2016, Social Studies joined us this year in developing their priority standards. And we also are hosting that Huron Assessment and Grading Conference again this summer. So the main thing for us when we started this was to identify what a priority standard was and how it differed from just a regular standard. And for us, the priority standard is the most essential standards that they need to a particular grade level, how it relates to prior grade levels, current grade levels, and then future grade levels as well. And so teachers will spend more time instructing on these priority standards. It's not the only focus we have. We cover all our standards, but we identified these as being the most essential to student learning. So how did we determine those priority standards? What we did is we went through and tallied how often we were covering each standard. And from there, we identified what was priority to our students. How does standards-based learning improve our current assessments? We took and analyzed those priority standards, and we worked backwards. So we decided what did they absolutely need to know when we were done discussing that standard and teaching it, and we created our assessments based on that. How do we know when a student has truly mastered the standard? We created a proficiency scale which has 5 levels to it, and on the next slide, Brooke will go into more of what that looks like. How will common assessments impact conversations with our colleagues? For me, this is the most important, essential question that we have, because it makes me have to go and discuss with my colleagues if my students didn't do well on the assessment, what part of it was I struggling with as a teacher to get across to them. Maybe it's I didn't use enough manipulatives, or my activities weren't well thought out. So it creates that conversation so that all teachers can help all students meet those standards. And how our conversations change when talking with parents and students. Our grade book is going to be set up based on our domain and our standard. These standards that we're prioritizing are going to be incorporated in there. And we have a priority progress report that will also lead discussion with students and parents. And Brooke will go into that as well.
So the first thing we have for you is our proficiency scales. Each grade level has proficiency scales for each standard that they have. We have in each grade level about 10 priority standards that we are focusing on with math. Each area, language arts, science, social studies, they went through and did their own proficiency scales, but all proficiency scales in the middle school look like this. This is how they're set up. If you can see at the top, it gives us the subject, the grade level, and the domain. So this is out of math, so it's geometry. Language arts would be like informational text, something like that. Then the priority standard is taken from the South Dakota DOE Common Core standard. It is word for word their standard that the state gives us. And then as we go farther down, we get to our 5 different levels: no evidence, beginning, developing, mastered, distinguished. These are in student parent friendly language, so they know what we're talking about, because we know that the priority standard at the top is probably a little confusing, hard to understand. So the bottom ones are broken down into specific parts that we need our students to know. The teacher version of this looks a little bit different. On the way far side, we have sample activities that we do to get our students to this level. So as you can see, we have the different levels where they know, understand, do, and then we have the distinguish where they have to apply. Grade level proficiency at the middle school would be the mastered level. If they want to go to the distinguished level, they have to meet with their teacher, come up with a plan, decide what they can do to get to that distinguished level. We put that learning in the hands of the students. They have to push themselves to that next level if they want it. Here is a common summative assessment for that same proficiency scale. This is one of the assessments that would go with it. All areas in the middle school have done their assessments differently. With math, there is a common summative assessment A, B, and C for each standard. So they go through, they take this, depending on what they get, If they're still at beginning, they might need to retake it, we'll do some reteaching, do some activities, and then they can take assessment B. The good thing about our summative assessments is that we will all be giving the same summative assessment. So it comes back to that group collaboration that Lisa had talked about, really looking at what did we teach, what have we missed, what do we need to go back and do better, bounce ideas off our colleagues and decide, maybe the way they taught it is better than the way I taught it. This also gives us, the beginning, developing and mastered. The distinguished is not on there because that is left in the students' hands to come to the teacher and talk to them about what they need to do to get to that next level to be distinguished in that area. And then our progress report. This is a standards-based progress report. It is a working document. It is not set in stone. We are going to pilot it this fall with our math program. If on this side it has the priority standards listed, and then it has the first attempt, second attempt, third attempt, which is for those A, B, and C assessments that they take. So they can see if they're growing or if they are falling behind in an area. With priority standards, we want to make sure that we're not just hitting it once and, oh, you mastered it and you're done. No, they're going to have to keep applying the standard and making sure that they keep up with it. So as I said, it's a work in progress. We're going to take, suggestions from parents, students, other teachers. We want this to be useful for parents, easy for them to see, understand, but we don't want it to be more work for our teachers as well. So traditional learning versus standards-based learning and reporting. With our traditional learning, teachers use textbooks as a basis for planning instruction.
In standards-based learning and reporting, we choose the priority standards, and then we branch out and use multiple resources to help guide our instruction.
In traditional, the focus is on the teacher instruction and covering the content and getting through it.
And in standards-based learning, we put the focus on the student's learning and then the mastery of those priority standards.
In the traditional setting, teachers formally assess one time after a unit, after a chapter. It's a one test, you get that grade, you're done.
Standards-based learning allows multiple opportunities for the students. It allows teachers to provide feedback and work with that student to help them demonstrate their learning when they're there.
In traditional learning and reporting, teachers cover curriculum with rigid, pre-planned timeframes to get through all the material they need to get through.
And in standards-based learning, the key is that it's ongoing. You can assess all year long. So standards-based learning puts the focus on the learning. It allows us to incorporate standards-based learning and reporting into our traditional grading practices. We're not changing how we grade. We're not changing our report card. We're just changing how we communicate exactly what students know with our parents. We have 4 teams right now at the middle school: the math, English language arts, science, and social studies. Exploratory teachers will start up this fall working on prioritizing their standards. And again, that's just a short overview of 4 years of work that we have put into this. If you are wanting any more information or wanting representatives from the other teams to come and speak with you, we'd all be happy to do that.
I don't know if you had a copy of the PowerPoint with you. Was it in your packets? We can probably make sure if you need that, we can, whatever they presented here tonight, to make sure you get that. We're not changing our present report card. You're still gonna get the Huron Middle School report card you've got for years. Some of your kids have gone through middle school, but this will be an additional sheet that will be presented at conference time by math teachers in the fall, our first conference date. Here's the grade, I got a B, why did I get a B in math? Here's the standards we covered, here's how they did. And you'll be able to see, oh, they did really well on this, but I see they got a B probably because they're still beginning on this thing. They didn't know this standard very well. So at least it gives you an idea of what you need to go home and say, here's your grade, and the reason you got that grade is because you know some of these standards really well, and you're still not very, demonstrating mastery anyway on some of the other standards. I think when I look at the work that they've done, that this aligns a whole lot more with the standards testing that our kids are taking. When I look at the Smarter Balance test, and even the MWA a little bit, those are the type of questions and measurements, so we're hoping as we continue to do this that we'll see that our kids start doing better on it because they're showing those. Any questions for the group or myself? We'll probably be sharing again. Thank you. It's been a process. Interesting along the way, so we've learned a lot.
Thank you very much for the report.
Thank you. Is somebody's? Good job.
I will now move to the good news report from the ESL program, presented by Carrie Inker.
Okay, well, I can't say as if I have good news to report tonight. We'll just call this a special report from our ESL program. I've asked 2 of my ESL teachers to join me tonight, and they are actually a pretty unique pair. June Wheeler teaches at Buchanan, so she gets our students as they get introduced to the school system and start learning English. And Becca Briggs teaches at the high school with the advanced kids, so she gets them at the end of their journey through ESL and prepares them to go on to college. So, like I said, they're a very unique pair. As you know, both of them are leaving our district this year, pursuing retirement and other things in their lives, so we are very sad to leave them, to have them go and to let them go. Their students wanted to share some things with you. Unfortunately, this room is not big enough for the amount of students whose lives they have touched. So I am just going to read some things that the students have said about their teachers. Mrs. Briggs, thank you for being my teacher. I've had a lot of fun in International Club. I will never forget the memories that we had when we went to Chicago for a music trip. I hope you have a great time and a bright future. May God bless you and your family. I'm going to miss you, Mrs. Briggs. Thanks for everything you have done for us. I'm very thankful for your patience and thanks for your kindness and for being caring. I wish you the best. I'm going to miss you. Mrs. Briggs is the best teacher I've ever known. She's helping me with everything I need. She cares for others and always helps with the people who need help. She helped me learn more English, and I've improved a lot when I'm with her. Mrs. Briggs is really nice to me and kind to me and other students. She always makes sure that her students are doing the right thing. Sometimes Mrs. Briggs was funny. When I was in Mrs. Briggs' class, we did a lot of fun things for class. She is the best teacher for me, and I love her so much, and my other friends too. I feel sad that she has to move, and I'm going to miss her so much. Thank you for all the years you have stayed at Huron and teaching us more English. We really enjoyed the moments we spent in your class. You're always so generous and patient. You're a great teacher, and you always want the best for us. You always keep pushing us forward instead of letting us fall. You always have a smile on your face and taught us respect. A lot of students improved because of you. We are thankful for the times that you help us and support us. Because of you, we have become more than who we are. We will miss you. Now, first grade's a little bit different. The first graders would like to share with Mrs. Wheeler. She is nice to me and she teaches me about reading. Mrs. Wheeler teaches me to learn English. I like it and she is nice. She helps me with math. She helps me. She's beautiful. She's nice to me. We like spelling with you. I like to read books with you. I'm going to miss you a lot. I want to go with you because you're the best teacher ever. You cut so beautiful with your scissors. Mrs. Wheeler, I will miss you so much. I like reading books for you, and thank you for telling me how to read a book. Thank you for helping me do math and do spelling. You make me listen and do our work. Mrs. Wheeler, you are the best teacher in the school, and I love you. We love her. We miss her every day. Where are you going? We miss you long day. I want to go with her to the park and play tag and have fun with her. after, we could go to Chuck E. Cheese, and then we could go home. I will call you a Huron Tiger. You are the best Huron Tiger in the school every day. Is she taking a break? We will miss you. You taught me to do math and how to read. Thank you. Mrs. Wheeler is so nice. I want to go with you and your grandma. I think she's mad, but I still want to go to Chuck E. Cheese with her. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And thank you for your service to the district, and we are sad to see you both leave. We'll next turn to our next report, the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Several things to touch base on. First of all, on the staffing. We're interviewing this week and in the coming days, beginning of next week, on a nurse's position and on a special education position. We have done some interviewing on the middle school language arts, and I'm not sure where that is as far as whether we're ready to finalize that or not, but we're getting close on that. Mr. Radke and I visited this afternoon, and with all of the activities going on in this final week, we agreed to open up the assistant principal's position for yet another week. We had notified the staff that today was the deadline, but with all of the school activities, I believe Mr. Radke will start putting together a team and an interview schedule, but if there are others, we'll reserve a slot or two, that if there's others that come in the next week, it gives us as good a chance as we can to get as many candidates for the assistant principal and director of the CTE program. As far as the goal report and goal setting, I put this on here just so that the community would understand how this process works. It's actually a process that we've been asked to share at the joint conference between administrators and board members this August in Sioux Falls. We're wrapping up the calendar now at the next board meeting. After the meeting is over, the first meeting in June, you'll hear reports from all of the administrators on how this last year has gone and how they've tried to fulfill the board goals in their various buildings. Along with that, they report to the superintendent as we go through their final principal evaluation on the scores of their teachers and how their teachers have met the standards of the effective teaching model, which now has a component for effective principal model. So all of that takes place in June. Then, the second meeting in June, you will take the data that you've received from the teachers and from the cabinet members, and you will, after that board meeting, we'll meet in a work session in order to set your goals for next year. I'm very proud to say that the pattern we've developed is that those goals then are the driving force in all of the goal setting that goes on in the district for the coming year. In fact, with only a couple that won't be able to be there for the first time, we're going to meet on the morning after your July board meeting and go through the board goals that you'll have ratified the night before. You'll work on them at the end of June, you'll pass it at your annual meeting in July, and then we'll meet the next morning so that the administrators have the summer to work on how to take your goals and turn them into live action plans. At the June 13th meeting, I am going to be asking for action to return our advanced ed accreditation back down to the high school only. And then we'll see how the accreditation model at advanced ed works with the high school. We've been talking about it formally and informally at admin meetings. I talked to you about it in the past, but there is such a duplication right now between what we do with K-8 through the Focus Initiative and then to add on the Advanced Ed Initiative. I've kept pretty close track of what's going on with the ESD schools, and we'll be one of the schools that will try to maintain our constant advanced accreditation, which we've had in this district since 1908, and we'll see if we can get a little bit more cooperation with the advanced ed people. They sent 2 representatives to meet with our administrators, and they heard us. They're not doing anything differently, but the charges have gone higher and higher to become members. There's also an additional charge for being a district-wide member, and the combination of those fees without additional services and the duplication of work that we've had in our K-8 has brought us to the point that I'm going to be asking you to agree to return our accreditation back to high school level at the June 13th board meeting. And as soon as I finish the other two report items here, I'm certainly open to questions so that you have all the information you'd need in order to do that. The science curriculum, you've already passed the K-5 science curriculum. You were supposed to look at the 6 through 12 curriculum, but my analysis of our policy and working with people who are concerned about whether community had reviewed or not is that there's one more step we need to do before asking the Board of Education to pass the science curriculum. The teachers are the ones that are supposed to do the analysis with the cabinet members and come up with their proposed curriculum, but before that curriculum comes to the board, there should be an opportunity for parents, community, students, et cetera, to review that. I've received notification that we've got parents from the middle school, parents from the high school, parent representatives, and Mr. Hayter has expressed concerns, and so he will attend those meetings as my guest from the school board, and that meeting is tomorrow night with the teachers, starting at 3:30, and so hopefully we'll be ready to come up with a recommendation for the board to consider on the 6-12 science curriculum at the June 13th meeting. The final thing that I have before I open it to questions has to do with the handbooks. The handbooks are due a week from Wednesday in the superintendent's office, so that they'll be in the iTunes account so that you can look over the handbooks, so that at the June 13th meeting will be the first reading of the handbooks, and the administrators will be there to explain the changes from last year to this year, and then we would ask you to approve those if possible at the second meeting in June. That's my report, but I have one more thing I penciled in here. The gift program, which is Get It Finished Today, is a program that we use in order to allow students who have nearly completed work to continue working into the summer to complete it. And there are packets ready for students, and I believe that next Tuesday morning, beginning at 9:30, will be the gift program completion going on at the high school from 9:30 to 3 on Tuesday, and we'll see if there's anything left after that for students to make up. So they'll have an extra weekend and then that program rather than simply not completing a course. Now I'm ready for questions.
Any questions for the superintendent?
Then I'll end with, welcome back, Mr. Helpke.
Okay, then I'll note on our agenda that we had an item D under reports that ended up actually being the same thing as item A, and so we will not have a second report. We won't make them do it twice.
One was brought to me by the principal, and one was brought to me through Mrs. Nelson, and I made the mistake of misunderstanding that they were two separate reports, so I apologize.
So we'll now move to old business.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Item D says here it's a presentation of information to be presented at the joint conference.
Right, what they presented here
Okay.
is what they're going to
Okay.
present at joint conference.
I misunderstood. I thought maybe it was what you were going to be presenting.
Okay, well, I can certainly clarify that. The model that we use for goal setting, they've asked if we can do that at the joint conference. And so if board members are attending the conference and able to be there to answer questions, it'd be great. The officers have both told me they will not be at the joint conference, and yet we're prepared to move forward. And what we're going to do is present to them the cycle that includes how we do our goal setting, how we do our fall meetings with our administrative team in order to the work session, how we explain the goals to the entire faculty, how we do the mid-year updates as part of the Effective Principals Initiative, and how we do the spring reporting, and then how the cycle starts all over. So we're going to make that presentation. Okay?
Thank you. Now we'll move on to old business. The only item of old business is the Huron Sports Improvement Project. And we have in our board packet the contract for that project. I will, I guess, ask Mr. Christopherson to discuss this one.
This is just the written agreement that has been recommended to us by Coke Hazard Architects. After the bid was approved, then they gather information from the general contractor, such as all his insurance documents and so forth, and make sure everything is in order before they put forth the contract for signatures. This contract will reflect what was in the bid, the completion date of August 1st, 2016, the liquidated damages of $2,000 per day for any day over that, and the contract amount, which we had a base bid of $2,095,000, and we took alternate number 6, which added $411,000, which was the turf system for the Tiger Stadium.
And so this is something where we just need to approve the contract, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
I would make a motion to approve the contract.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve the contract for the Sports Improvement Project. Is there any further discussion on that motion?
Just like to thank Mr. Christopherson for his hard work in getting this going.
There was actually dirt moving over the weekend and continuing today, so the sod is being peeled off where the new tennis courts will go.
Any further discussion?
I'm just going to give an FYI about the sod, because I've had community people ask and employees ask, and they did an analysis on could we take that sod and move it someplace else, either the tennis court sod or the football field sod. And the explanation that we received as far as cost efficiency is that once sod has been there many, many years, the roots are so deep that the amount of soil that would have to be moved in order to move it someplace else is prohibitive. If you sliced it like you do new sod and laid it down, the vast, vast majority of it would never take. And so the recommendation from the people that know is that that sod was not able to be transported and used again with any likelihood of it succeeding. So for those who've asked what's happening to the sod, that was a long process before they made that recommendation. And that's a topic when I go to coffee, so I just thought I'd share it so that everyone that was listening had a chance to hear it universally. And hopefully I got it right, Mr. Christopherson, on my description.
That's the way I understand it also.
Okay. Just a human interest side to what's
Yes.
going on.
Yes. So no one gets to have the Huron Tiger football sod in their backyard.
Could have made a good fundraiser.
Right.
Okay, any further discussion on the motion to approve the project? Or the contract in this case? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed say no. That motion carries. We'll now move to new business, which is a first reading on an amendment to policy GCBD-3, which is in your board packet.
Should be the last page on your packet as you scroll to the bottom.
And I guess I'll ask Mr. Nemlesek to comment on this.
Thank you. The HEA officers have been wonderful to work with on this. This change was actually made a couple of months ago when we received a recommendation from Mr. Christopherson's office that the auditors would recommend that we, or would no longer it was no longer allowable for us to delay deducting the days of sick leave from their pay period in August, that it needs to conclude before the end of the fiscal year by July 1. So it's just a small change that says if you took the wellness incentive, so you got the 5 days of advance, $100, and then you use them, we don't take them away from you. We don't deduct them all away from you at the same time, unless it happens toward the end of the year, because the final deduction needs to take place in June, whereas before it said all remaining days would be deducted in August. It simply has to conclude before that. HEA helped us explain that to the membership this year, and now we are changing the formal language to reflect what we now have to do in order to be in compliance with the auditor's recommendation.
So what's in front of us is first reading of this amended policy.
That is correct. Is there any discussion or questions about this amendment?
Seems like a fairly straightforward change, should be good.
Okay, that's what it's about. Okay.
Thank you. That will then be on for second reading at the next meeting. And without the executive session, I believe that brings us to the end of our agenda for the day. And so I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. A motion to second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, say no. The motion carries. We are adjourned.